What's up, Big 12 Nation? It is Tuesday night in America. That can mean only one thing. It's time for another edition of your favorite YouTube-centric Big 12 college football-themed show. That's right. It's the one, it's the only, it's the Biggest 12. With me, your host, Clint Foster, wherever you are. Thank you so much for making us a part of your Tuesday night. And it is Arizona State night, as evidenced by the Sun Devil, creepily looking over my shoulder. We don't have an angel over here. We got a Wildcat over here, which is, you might have the angel and devil reversed if you're watching tonight's show, and the maroon banner below. But before we get to talking about those wonderful Big 12 champion Arizona State Sun Devils, I need some things from you. First of all, I need for you to subscribe to the show at Big 12 VOCFB. There it is right there. You know what to do. This isn't your first day on the internet, okay? Go over there, like, subscribe, ring the bell, do all the things. Help us grow this thing. Help us make this an international sensation that I feel very strongly it deserves to be. Also, while you're doing some to-dos, follow me at Clint_Foster55 on Twitter or X, whatever your game is, and on YouTube at Clint Foster Comedy. That's where you're going to find all of my personal funnies. And make sure that you're downloading and subscribing to the Biggest 12 on your favorite podcasting app of choice. You can catch us live there. You can also listen to us later there on your commute. You can re-listen to the Biggest 12. Why not? Why not make this a daily thing? Just re-listen to the same show over and over again. Spotify, Apple Music, all the things. We're all there. And connect with the voice of college football on Twitter and Instagram. Check out our latest takes, ratings, and rankings. You're going to find us. It's very simple at the VOCFB. Really easy stuff. So, without further ado, let's get this show started. You know him, you love him. He's a friend of the show. He's here to talk all things Devils. Ladies and gentlemen, Ralph Amsden. Ralph, thanks so much for coming to the show this fine Tuesday evening. How are you?
I'm good. It's good to see you. We'll get this out of the way right away. Got hit in the face with a softball. It is softball season, by the way. ASU ranked 23rd. But certainly my appearance is going to do nothing for the correlation in some people's minds between Arizona State and the herpes simplex A and B virus. So do have that face version.
I think you look fabulous. I think you look fabulous.
This is a battle scar.
You look great, Ralph. You never look
Appreciate
better.
I got kind of a collar with some graphing paper on. Yeah,
a lot to distract the eyes. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Oh yeah, Brownie will be joining us actually. Just so you know, it's not us lonely too. We'll have a nice Iowa State perspective here when we're talking about Sun Devils. But I don't know who it is to tell you, but someone says heads up. It means duck and cover. I guess maybe this is your first time having a softball shot at your face. Brownie, how are you, friend?
Good. I had to go and run and get a baseball hat since apparently I was going to be the odd man out.
Yeah. I'm on spring break right now.
First game today?
Yeah. The Dodgers-Cubs played at 5 a.m. and my beloved Cubs got their butts whooped. So,
well, it doesn't count.
All I have to say about
that. It
that.
Happened in America, and it happened before we were awake. So,
damn straight. Let's go with that. Let's go
the
with
Cubs
that.
All in the forest.
There's no such thing as baseball outside of America. If we're being honest. But yes, Clint, it is Sun Devil time. So, Ralph and Brownie, you can just be party to this. I've got some Arizona trivia for you. Some of these same questions were asked on Wildcat night. So, if you do worse than Iron Mike and Schiff, the guys who were on that night, then I guess that's just a badge of dishonor for you. But some of these are Arizona State themed questions. Some of them are state of Arizona questions. Are you ready for what's about to come at you? Okay.
Fun for this.
All right. So I got 10 questions for you. Question number 1 for eternal glory on the internet. That's what we're playing for. What was Arizona State's original name in 1885, 27 years before Arizona became a state?
Can I get a repeat? I just realized my headphones aren't even plugged in. I have a microphone. What am I doing? We're devils.
Yeah, we can do that. So Arizona State has been around since before Arizona was even a state.
Right?
Yeah,
true.
So the question is, what was Arizona State's original name in 1885, 27 years before statehood?
Tempe Normal School.
That is very close. It's Arizona Territorial
Teachers.
Normal School.
Yes.
Okay. It did become Teachers College. Yes. But Arizona Territorial Normal School. We might give you half a point for that one, that you knew normal school. I don't know what a normal school is. Certainly not.
We're not the weirdos.
Yeah. I guess so.
College programs in Arizona. That's what it means.
All right. Question 2. What Disney animator designed the Sun Devil mascot? This one right here.
I can tell you who he was employed by. I will not be able to recall his name off the top of my head, but Sparky is supposedly, legend has it, a caricature of Walt Disney himself and was drawn by a Disney animator.
Yeah, Burke Anthony is that Disney animator. So 2 half points. We'll give you a full point now between
There we go.
So is that what he thought that Walt Disney looked like, was a Sun Devil?
He's got the little mustache.
Yeah.
So it kind of looks like Walt Disney and maroon spandex with horns. Honestly,
haven't we all thought our boss was Satan?
No comment, since this is on the internet.
To be fair, Walt Disney was naming names at one point in time. He was calling all of his animators communists. So I'm sure this was around that same time.
Damn you, commies!
I don't know. All these animators, they want me to pay them a fair wage. They're out there striking, bunch of communists.
The audacity.
Okay, so question number 3. You're 1 point between 2 halves. So Arizona State has played every single Big 12 school, right? Arizona could not say the same. But what is the only Big 12 team that Arizona State has never beaten?
Okay. That has to be... This is in football, correct?
Football, yeah. We're talking football.
Cincinnati.
That is correct. Yes,
right.
Cincinnati. Very good, Ralph. Very good. Yes. Arizona's never beaten Cincinnati either. But, Arizona hadn't beaten a lot of people, if we're being honest. Okay. Whenever Arizona did become a state, when Arizona became the 48th state, they were able to participate that same year in a presidential election. Okay. Which presidential candidate won Arizona in its first election as a state? This was in 1912.
Okay, so World War I era?
So this would be it would be 2 years before the official beginning of World War I, 4 years before 5 years before our involvement in World War I.
Okay. Not too great at this. We're gonna say Herbert Hoover.
You're a little early. You're a little early for Herbert Hoover. Woodrow Wilson is the answer.
Oh, Woody.
Yes,
of course.
Famed racist Woodrow Wilson.
We just like the W's. That's what
that's what it is.
He was throwing the Wu-Tang symbol before Wu-Tang did it.
Yeah. Right. I guess Teddy Roosevelt. Yeah, Teddy Roosevelt was before. Although Teddy Roosevelt did run in that election, he ran as a Bull Moose third-party candidate in that election. So there you go, Rye Guy. Okay, question number 5, and you got 2 points here. What movie featured 2 women driving into the Grand Canyon as a crescendo, going out in a blaze of glory at the end of the film?
It's my girl Gina Davis. That's Thelma and Louise, my friend.
That is Thelma and Louise. Yes, very good, Ralph. Very good. Nobody in Arizona knew that one, so I was surprised. Okay, nice.
They're not Mensa members like Gina Davis.
Obviously.
That's I only know like 2 Gina Davis facts, so I just used one of them. One of them might not be a Gina Davis fact, but I think you're not allowed to cry in baseball, I think is the other one.
Yes.
Well, yeah, she was in that movie. Yeah. So
Yes.
then, yeah. Okay. As we all know,
And she was in the biggest bomb of all time, if I'm not mistaken. She was in some pirate movie that had like $100+ million budget and made like $8.
Oh, I don't even know what movie that would be.
I am on it.
Please, Brownie.
I don't know. When I think biggest bomb of all time, I think Cleopatra, just because of how outrageous that budget became. They paid Elizabeth Taylor $1 million, and it didn't even make $1 million, I don't think.
Nice.
Cutthroat Island?
Cutthroat Island, that's the one.
There you go.
1995. She got paid $7 million for it.
Wow.
They
Go Gina.
grossed a total of $250.
Oh my God.
Other actors and actresses were Matthew Modine,
That's true.
Frank Langella, Maury Chalkin, Rex Lynn. Oh wow, you're really getting into the sea people here. Christopher
Oscar
Matterson.
winner Frank Langella, by the way.
Yeah.
Because you're a president guy, you're a history guy. You played who?
Wait, Oscar Langella? Is that what you
Frank
said?
Langella won an Oscar for playing a president.
Frank
Since we're
Langella.
asking questions about presidents. Or he was at least nominated for an Oscar for playing a president.
I don't even know who Frank Langella. Oh, okay. I knew who Frank Langella is. Geez, when did he play a president? I don't know. Oh, he was in Frost Nixon.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Richard Nixon.
Nice.
Not illegal in president.
Wonderful.
Okay. I had a dog named Suckers.
Outstanding. All right. So question 6. You got 3 points, I believe. Yes. 1, 2, 3. Okay. So, nobody ever knows what time it is in Arizona. That's why when I DM you, Ralph, I'm just like,
Fair.
hey, this is Central Time. I don't know what time it is in your state. I'm jealous that y'all don't do this whole daylight savings time nonsense.
Yeah, jerks.
But, yeah. So, what other state does not observe daylight savings time?
Ooh, pick me.
I don't believe it's the entire state. I think it's Indiana.
It's not Indiana. Brownie, you know?
The Ohio.
No, Ohio
No.
does. Hawaii is the answer. Hawaii does
Really?
not observe daylight savings time. Yes. Yeah, correct. Yeah, nobody for the Arizona show knew that one either. Okay. The
That's
Arizona
wild.
Cardinals. What city did they move from when they moved to Arizona?
We talking
Well-
like way back?
Yeah,
No,
you
just-
want both?
Not
You want both?
that bonus point if you know both, but which one did they move from to Arizona?
St. Louis.
St. Louis is correct, yes.
They had the big head cardinal mascot, which is featured prominently right there. That
Very
is
nice.
the 1998 Arizona Cardinals, the best football team that never actually accomplished anything. I don't know how many people that have a photo of a team that went 9-7 framed behind them, but I do. Shout out to Pat Tillman and Jake Plummer, Sun Devils, who were rookies on that team. But yeah, they were Chicago before that, and the nickname is actually the color of the jersey they used to wear when they were like a YMCA squad.
And what city were they in before St. Louis?
Chicago.
Chicago, yeah. Rye Guy knew it too. Good job, Rye Guy. Points for Rye
Don't
Guy.
forget, also during the wonderful World Wars, when we were merging the teams, that they spent 1 year in Pittsburgh.
I didn't know that.
They also moved cities in 2005
what from
Yeah,
Phoenix to
'cause-
Scottsdale?
from Phoenix to Glendale.
Phoenix to
Glendale.
Glendale.
That's what I meant. Yeah,
MP to Glendale, yeah.
yeah, because they played in Sun Devil Stadium.
They did. They
Yeah.
did. The players were separated from the fans by a chain link fence. I know this because I once harassed Matt Jones through that chain link fence to the point where he shook the fence and almost made me piss my pants. Big dude.
Yeah, I had to double check this because somebody looked at me funny when I brought it up for the Pittsburgh thing. So the Chicago Cardinals and the Pittsburgh Steelers during the 1944 season merged together to become the Card Pits.
Jeez.
Card Pits. Nice.
Yep. And then the year before that, in 43, during World War II, they merged with the Eagles, and they were the Cardinals, and then they split, and then the Steelers got with the Eagles and became the Steagles.
Nice.
Okay, well, I want a share of like 9 Super Bowls then. 'Cause we don't have anything.
Yeah, that counts. You can claim that. Raga asks a great question. Now, I know that Sun Devil Stadium, when I was there for the Buffalo Wild Wings Bowl, by the way, casual Buffalo Wild Wings reference, I don't remember a
Terrible
chain
game.
link fence because it had gone through a pretty significant refurbishment, is my understanding. Is there still a chain link fence there?
Yep. Yeah, in places, but
Yeah.
they have renovated quite a bit. But yeah, there's still chain link fence around
Yeah.
on the outside. Yeah.
Okay.
Chain of-
Because you mentioned Pat Tillman, I'll go ahead and jump down to my Pat Tillman question. We had to have a Pat Tillman question.
Mhm.
We all know Pat Tillman, left his NFL career to join the armed forces after 9/11 and tragically died in service. So my question for you, Ralph, what is the highest medal that Pat Tillman earned for his service?
Believe the Congressional Medal of Freedom.
He did not win the Medal of Freedom, and I think that's just a civilian honor.
Oh, okay.
But he won the Silver Star.
Silver
actually.
Star. Okay.
He got a Purple Heart, of course, being wounded in combat, and a Silver Star. And I think he also got there was some other distinguished service medal that's lower in the totem pole than the Silver Star. But yeah. Okay. 2 more questions. In the song "Take It Easy," Don Henley is standing on the corner in what Arizona town?
That would be Winslow.
Winslow, Arizona.
Yeah, Winslow, Arizona. Yes.
That would
very
be
good.
Winslow. Yep.
Take it easy.
Yes. I am going to go ahead and drop a fact before I ask this last question, because this was something that was specific to Tucson. But apparently I learned in doing my University of Arizona trivia that there is an abandoned Lisa Frank factory in Tucson, Arizona. That's like a big...
Makes Lisa Frank's.
Well, it used to.
Yeah, and they make dolphin, rainbow, orca folders.
Yes.
Features.
Yes, exactly.
Incredible.
And it's some big tourist. Hey, check out the abandoned Lisa Frank factory.
I remember when they were all the rage when I was
some of
in
my
school.
money.
What was
My
that,
daughter
Brady?
is into it. Yeah, my daughter's into it for sure.
I was going to say that used to be like a big thing when I was in school. Like, when your parents gave you $10 and you went to like the book store, book club thing that your
Scholastic
school
Book Fair?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Lisa Frank was everywhere. You had the gel pens, you had the stickers. I mean,
I borrowed an Orca pencil once, aced the spelling test that I did not study for, and then that I had to negotiate for the retention of said pencil because, of course, that's the one that I got the A with. So you got to rock with it.
Yeah. Rainbow leopard print and all everything else. Okay, last question for you, Ralph. Let me see where we're at. We're at 1, 2, 3, 4, and 2 halves. So 5 points. Okay, this is for 6 points. I think this actually, if you get this, it will tie you with those guests from the Arizona Nights. So there's a lot riding on this. Okay. Territorial Cup ambitions. Okay, another history question for you. What purchase gave Arizona its current borders in 1853?
That'd be the Gadsden Purchase.
That is the Gadsden Purchase. Congratulations, Ralph. Just wonderful, wonderful job. 6 points out of 10. That ain't half bad, friend. That really ain't half bad.
The amount of people that actually don't know about that purchase actually shocks me.
Yeah. And if I remember correctly, that was like the 4th time that Santa Anna got exiled after he sold that to the United States, that he was cooed, yet again. Santa Anna served 11 non-consecutive terms as president. Did y'all know that? President of Mexico.
That is actually kind of weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, hey, by the way, it didn't work the first time. We should just try it again. Why not?
Let's try it for an 11th time. Okay. What do you think about that?
I think there's for people who are learning right now. Congratulations! It's good to learn every day. But a few extra things if your mind is open. State bird of Arizona, in case you ever need it to win $1 million or something. That's cactus red.
Oh, cactus red, nice.
Our state animal, believe it or not, ringtail lemur. Never seen one in my life, but that's a thing.
Yeah, how?
Yeah.
Why?
Did you guys have it like in a zoo one time? Like,
I think they run around up on South Mountain or whatever, but it's hot out, so I don't really go up there.
Some escaped from a circus train and now they're indigenous to the area.
Yeah, Valentine's Day is our birthday, and also the day the Titanic sunk.
1912, yeah.
Yeah, Barry Goldwater's a whole thing there.
Yes, yeah. I thought about a Barry Goldwater question, but I decided against it.
Well, you have the freedom to do that.
Yeah.
You would support your freedoms.
I was like, Woodrow Wilson, that's one racist that we're going to talk about. We don't need to talk about your Barry Goldwater too.
And I think Lake Havasu is up there with Death Valley for the hottest place in America, and that's all the things I know.
I love that. We're all about expanding our minds and knowledge on the Biggest 12. Yeah, and I mean, Santa Ana isn't loved in Texas, Rye Guy, but we did beat him at San Jacinto and became a country, so screw him. Who cares? Actually, his leg is in Indiana. His wooden leg, I believe it's Indiana. That was captured from him during the Mexican-American War. That's another Santa Ana fact.
Why would you want his wooden leg?
Just, like, hey, we got your leg,
It's like the whole kid, hey, I got your nose thing.
Yeah.
But instead, like, yeah, try walking in America with this.
Stole your leg, nerd. Yeah, okay.
Greatest short story ever written is about someone stealing a leg.
What short story is that?
Highly recommend. Good Country People, Flannery O'Connor. Great short story.
I thought he was going to bring up the scene in Guardians of the Galaxy, Volume #1.
Oh yeah,
when he takes the leg. I thought that's where he was going with it.
Yes,
they might have.
That's the greatest short story, and I need that guy's leg.
Yeah.
Was he hopping around? All right. So before we get into some exclusively devil-related talk, get your business, product, service, or personal brand to the next level by partnering with the voice of college football. See what our partner Win Agency has to say about its sponsorship experience with us. Let's discuss how you can reach your target market. Contact us at sponsorships@vocfb.com today. All right. For as long as we're talking about growing this thing, sponsorships are a big part of that, so please do consider it. Let's talk some Devils, Ralph, and famed Big 12 championship loser to the Devils, Brownie. We've talked a lot about that 2024 season. I mean, literally the best you could have possibly hoped for. So let's recap it a little bit. I mean,
sure.
What was your feeling when that Great Atlanta train robbery finally came to a close and you're able to sit in the reality of an incredible first season of the Big 12? I mean, what can you say about it, Ralph, that hadn't already been said?
I don't really know. Like it's strange to try to reflect on when you get into a college football playoff situation, and like when you're in that situation, you don't have you just end up talking about spring practice just a couple of months down the road. The transfer portal opens and it's like, oh, we're good now. We have to we can't let this go to waste. So then immediately, you start planning for what games you're going to go to because you're more invested as a fan. You start looking deeper into what players are coming and going, and it ends up kind of feeling like a teaser. So I think reflection will ultimately come, but it all feels continuous at this point because the quarterback was a redshirt freshman and they're returning, probably 18 starters. And so it's really like, all right, what can we go get in this just continuum of the window being open for Arizona State? Window's open. We didn't even know it was open. So now we just it's like, day 3 of things being shut down for COVID. It's all you can think about is like, oh, I got to go get toilet paper. I'm going to be in it. So, we're kind of in a position right now where it's hard to even reflect because even the focus of the program, Kenny Dillingham, is out here like activate the Valley is their whole cry. So it's just forward, even consuming stuff about, Arizona State being the school in the college football playoff to send the least amount of players to the NFL Combine. So then you don't even really have an interest in that. It's just, what's going on with the program. And so the reflection has been an absolute minimum. And then it's also hard to put into words anyway, because it was so unlikely and they caught fire at the right time. And the quarterback play was not what it was at the end of the season. Like that was, that was something that developed over time and was kind of a huge surprise. So yeah, I mean, just as far as looking back, you're still in it. It's still happening.
Mm. Yeah. Well, and I mean, you mentioned Sam Levitt. I feel like the hype train for him is just out of control right now. Going
I
into
hate it.
yeah.
Hate it.
Well, where do you think he ranks among? There's a lot of really good Big 12 quarterbacks going into the season. Where do you think Sam Levitt ranks among them?
Yeah, and if you look at like the national talking heads, they'll tell you that 6 to 8 of the top 10, 6 to 8 of the top 10 quarterbacks in the country next year are in the SEC.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and that's mind blowing because try to come up with any season in your mind where even half the best quarterbacks in the country were in the SEC. It's never happened. And so people want you to believe two things: that the best quarterback play is going to take place in the SEC next year, which I'm very interested to see if that'll actually come to fruition, and that Sam Levitt is one of the best returning starters in college football. On3 even called him the best. And I like that's so unbelievably disrespectful to guys like John Mateer, who Oklahoma threw the bag at. I'm not against any omission of a guy like Carson Beck. I think he looked terrible last year, but as far as like Sam Levitt being up, like based on what 2 games, that's a real like you must not watch ball type situation because Sam Levitt played great, in my opinion, against Iowa State in the Big 12 championship. He played fantastic in the Territorial Cup to end the season. I don't think people were paying attention to a Territorial Cup game that was on, at like noon on a Friday right after Thanksgiving.
Well, it also got ugly really fast.
Yeah. So I think people are really talking about that game against Iowa State because they cannot be talking about the Peach Bowl. Sam Levitt did not throw a touchdown pass. He threw an interception with the game on the line. He made some electric plays. Electric. The 4th and 13 scramble to get inside the 5. He did some things that were just eye-opening and gave you hints of what the future could be. But to be able to put his resume out there and say, this is somebody who we're expecting to be the best quarterback in college football next year, it's completely unreasonable. And I, for one, completely embrace it because, when is the last time we've ever been in a position to be overhyped? 2015, Kirk Herbstreit picked Arizona State to be a college football playoff contender, and I think we went 6-7. And so that didn't last long. Arizona State, I think in 2014 was on the verge of making the college football playoff. They just had to go to Corvallis and win a game, but it was like 8 degrees, and Oregon State ran the ball every time. And we didn't win. So, it's been over a decade since anybody has been unreasonable in their expectations for Arizona State. We got no choice but to meet them. So, I welcome that for Sam Levitt, but it is objectively absurd when you look at who's coming back and the totality of Sam Levitt's body of work. He's good, but like John Mateer might give you 5,000 yards of offense next year at Oklahoma.
Or let's play devil's advocate. There are not 6 SEC quarterbacks that are going to be in the top 8 because
I agree with you.
So Levitt could be a top 8, top 10 quarterback. It's just because the SEC quarterbacks are overhyped.
Yeah. I have a theory about that actually, and I haven't heard anyone else say this anywhere on the internet, but I feel like that there's a lot of media bias surrounding the SEC. I just really feel pretty strongly about that.
I don't think I've ever heard anybody say that.
14 teams in the NCAA tournament. I mean, what? Like, I don't know. Maybe there's a little unreasonable SEC bias out there. But yeah, it is something to consider. ASU being overhyped, perhaps. And I think you're the first person to
embrace it.
That, Ralph. Yeah.
I mean, Iowa State was kind of in this exact same boat a few years ago, Iowa State came off a fairly good record, and when it was the 2020-2021 season, we were projected to be the exact same thing, got overhyped, and I mean, we fell flat on our freaking face. So hopefully, for your sake, you do not fall flat on your face, because I would much appreciate multiple Big 12 teams get into the college football playoffs. And if we're going to do that, we need to make sure everybody beats Utah.
Yeah, and hopefully for our sake, our quarterback's mom doesn't take a sudden interest in FanDuel and we don't have
Hell
our
yeah.
progress
Hey,
interrupted.
man, we just like to bet on ourselves. All
Yeah.
right? There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that.
That Pete Rose-ish, yeah.
Can't prove it in court.
Well, also when we're talking about 2024 Arizona State, I mean, we have to talk about Scadaboo, right? I mean, and just the unreal behemoth that he became. How do you replace Cam Scadaboo, or do you?
Well, if you go by people's inability to make cross-racial comparisons, the answer is no. There are no other whites running the ball for Arizona State, so he cannot be replaced because, of course, Cam Scadaboo can only be some mix of Kobe Gerhart and Christian McCaffrey.
Hey, real good football IQ guy, deceptively fast. He hustles.
Is that Peyton Hillis out there?
First one in the building, last one
and
out.
a freaking tank.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can't replace a white with a not white, according to some people, but you're based on what he's actually capable of, you're gonna have to piece some of it together because, and you guys saw it, what he would do when he would get hit behind the line of scrimmage to turn like a 4-yard loss into a 3-yard gain. Who's going to give you that? Now, Arizona State's got a pretty decent offensive line returning, so I don't think there's going to be very many, times where you have the running back getting tangled up in the backfield. But Kyson Brown is a good player and a great running back to spell Cam Scadaboo. It'll be interesting to see if he can take on more of a feature role. You have a former 5-star running back recruit from USC who pretty much sat out last season, who is going to give you your speed option. And then Kanye Udo from Army, as a one-cut, no-nonsense runner between the guard and tackle, and he would just sprint to daylight. He had over 1,000 yards rushing. And so I expect that they have enough talent on the team to piece together a pretty decent season, but you can't replace a running back who throws the ball, who breaks tackles, who blocks, who has the ability to vomit into a better form of himself mid college football playoff game. You're just not, you're not, and his balance. So I think the thing that sets Cam Scadaboo apart is he has the balance of a Boston Dynamics robot dog. And that's irreplaceable. So I don't know if they will. However, Sean Aguano, their running backs coach, at this point on his resume, you've got Kalen Ballage, who Big 12 fans should be very familiar with, as he scored 8 touchdowns in a single game against Texas Tech. There's Rashad White, starting running back for Tampa Bay, Eno Benjamin, who was an absolute superstar. And then, you got Cam Scadaboo. So just the run at running back for Arizona State in the last few years has been fantastic. And I think they'll figure it out. I think I couldn't tell you who's going to be the lead rusher because they're all so different, but it would be very cool for the guy who got 20% of the carries this year to be able to be the one to step up. And that's Kyson Brown. And he's not like Cam Scadaboo at all. So even if he did thrive, it wouldn't look like a replacement.
Do you think that they might show their hand more in spring where, you're getting those pre-reps and trying to figure out your new offense, especially after all the transfers have come in? Or do you think it might be something that they might not fully know until maybe like a week or two before the first game of the season?
That's such an awesome question because last March, I flew out to Arizona State to help my College Football Apostles co-host George Reister set up an interview with Kenny Dillingham and then quarterback Jaden Rashada. Jaden Rashada gave us a tour of the facility. Coolest kid in the world. Anything you've heard about him is probably wrong. Anything you've heard about him is probably not about him. It's probably about his path to where he's gotten, but it's not about him. He's a fantastic person. And, the expectation was that Jaden Rashada was going to be, a really high level starter for Arizona State. He hurts himself moving from one dorm to another, breaks his hand, isn't available for spring ball. But in interviewing Marcus Arroyo, their offensive coordinator, and Kenny Dillingham, Sam Levitt had been on campus for not that long, and it was clear they already had their guy. I walked out of the room, looked at George Rice, and I was like, "Oh, Sam Levitt's the quarterback here." Like, we just spent all this time and resources interviewing Jaden Rashada. They have their guy, and in my opinion, the Trenton Bourget would have been the person to go to if you wanted the highest floor, right? Not necessarily highest ceiling, but you know what you're going to get with Trenton Bourget. He's a ton of experience. He's like the best 7-on-7 quarterback of all time, and he was a walk onto your program, but he's got a few 400-yard games. And so my assumption is Trent Bourget, Jaden Rashada, Sam Levitt's going to have to figure it out. But it was clear from the interview that they knew. And so I think if you come in with an alpha personality and they know what you're capable of based on film, it's probably hanging out around that program. You might be able to figure out pretty quick who they have the most belief in at running back, or maybe it's different with the quarterback position. But in subsequent interviews, Kenny Dillingham's talked about a lot about the fact that like Sam Levitt was an unbridled, unbroken alpha, and they had to find a way to get a saddle on him. And because, you can't come in, yell at teammates if you haven't done anything. And you've seen him do that. You saw him do it in the Peach Bowl, get on Cam Scadaboo. It's his team fully now, and I wonder if they'll take the same strategy with running backs and say, like, whoever comes in here, and shows that they're clearly the alpha in the room is going to get the most carries in week 1, 2, 3, etc.
Right. I was just more asking because, like, Iowa State obviously went through that kind of same growing pain, especially after Breece Hall left, where we didn't have a clear number one. And even during spring practice, like, we didn't have a clear number one. And then through the entire season after, we were going through like 3-4 running backs. So it's kind of one of those things where, like, you hope to see one of the backups or the one that was getting the additional carries when your star was out step up to the plate. But I mean, for us, it's kind of a catch-22 because our offensive line always sucks. But with you guys returning a lot of talent and having that talent, it's definitely going to be one of those where can you find somebody that is that plug and play, or are they going to see all of this in spring ball and just do a play by committee, kind of like what the NFL does? So,
well, I think that this is a hot take of mine and has been for a while, but I think that for 90% of programs out there, running back depth is a myth. Your coach is going to want to depend on one person for 2/3 of the total carries. Sure. And that includes like design quarterback runs, scrambles, other gadget plays, jet sweeps. You're going to want somebody to be able to depend on. And that's most programs. Some programs can't do it because they legitimately have 2 NFL guys. Like, I think you guys had Hall and Hubbard at the same time at one point, right?
Yeah.
So some committees are forced based on talent, but for the most part, programs will tout running back depth, and it will only matter if there's injury issues or something like that. For the most part, people just want that lead back that they can depend on throughout the season. And I think in the mix somewhere is that for Arizona State. And I think if you look at the history of Arizona State, and Sean Aguano is kind of the common thread. He was brought in by Herm Edwards. He was head coach of the team and retained by Kenny Dillingham. In all of those situations, they've had multiple high-level recruits at running back. And at the end of the day, everybody left because one guy got all the carries. They had a really, really awesome group one year with Eno Benjamin and Traylon Smith, and Traylon Smith ends up having to go to Arkansas because Benjamin's going to get all these care. Like, they want one guy to be able to depend on. And the last time they really split was, they had Demario Richard, Kalen Ballage, and DJ Foster, and that was a situation where talent forced their hand. But 90% of programs are going to rock with one back 2/3 of the time, and they don't want the depth that they have. They just want their running back to depend on. So, for Arizona State, I think they'll fall into that same situation. You would just hate for it to be a committee situation because you don't have somebody who is seizing that position.
Yeah. Well, in the interest of never turning the page, I'm going to start a petition that we change the logo to an angry Cam Scadaboo with horns and vomit on his shirt. I think that would do numbers. Honestly, imagine that on the side of the helmet. So, we're fixing to start spring football fall camp is a long way away, but that's also the nature of the beast when I have 16 team previews to do throughout the offseason. Is there one big question that you have looming, Ralph, that you want to get answered, that you feel like you need to know to fully understand this Arizona State team going into 2025 for fall camp?
Yeah, I personally have two. The big one is at receiver. They in that Peach Bowl, they started guys who hadn't played all year at receiver. Troy O'Meary and Malik McClain, I think, came into the Peach Bowl with less combined catches. That like they doubled it in the Peach Bowl, basically. That's not a good situation to be in. And then obviously Jordan Tyson, you're missing him. You get him back. They got a transfer coming in from I think Alabama, from Clemson. They've got a couple of high school receiver recruits that could provide them that answer. But Sam Levitt's not going to be the best quarterback in the country or even have the potential to live up to what On3 said about him unless he's got receivers. And with Jordan Tyson being back, that's big, but it can't just be him. And Jordan Tyson, going into like week 10 of last year, had a larger percentage of receptions from his quarterback than anyone else in the Big 12 as far as a feature wide receiver. That's a nightmare scenario. That's not, we don't ever want to see that again. We don't want it to be like Calvin Johnson, Reggie Ball, Georgia Tech, where like Reggie Ball finishes the season with like 120 completions and 93 of them are to one guy. There's a reason Georgia Tech didn't win anything when they had the greatest receiver physical specimen of all time. So, that's my biggest question. And then the second one is in the transfer portal, Arizona State invested in Purdue's starting cornerbacks. That's the worst defense in all of college football last year. One of them is a 5-star transfer from Georgia who had some traffic issues, as one does.
Oh, you don't say.
Yeah.
Georgia traffic issues?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, which just means he was on the team.
Yeah.
That's almost like a rite of passage to be on their team at this point.
Yes. So that was kind of eyebrow raising for me because you have two very, very highly touted cornerbacks who played for Purdue. For Ryan Walters, who is one of my favorite defensive coordinators ever, didn't work at Purdue. Washington's going to love him, I promise. But if they couldn't figure it out there, it's kind of hoping that Brian Ward, who has proven himself to be a very, very good defensive coordinator, can find a way to make that work because I think they're going to depend on them.
Yeah.
They have some good returning defensive backs, but they don't have a lot of depth. So, they get these guys from Purdue who were like bad news bears situation, and to be able to get something out of them, it will determine whether or not Arizona State is having to score a lot or can eke out some tougher defensive style Big 12 contests.
Well, to be fair to them,
those Purdue players is like Big 10 is not made for passing defense as a whole. So you're already kind of behind the 8 ball for that. But if Arizona State can turn those two corners around, especially in a very pass-heavy league, maybe they see them more as athletes than they actually do, like your shutdown, lockdown defenders. Maybe one moves to a safety position and kind of fills in a gap there. But, I mean, I don't have a lot of faith in any Big 10 corner. I'm not going to lie, unless they went to Ohio State or Michigan.
Well, someone is going to turn these corners around. It's either going to be Arizona State or the receivers that they're guarding.
Or the Big 12.
Yeah.
Well, and to be fair to them, I mean, it's pretty dadgum hard to play cornerback well if you've got a front seven that didn't do anything, right? If you don't have any semblance of a pass rush,
that's what we're hoping.
They're going to get open, So, yeah. All right, let's take a look at this schedule. Pretty favorable schedule for Arizona State. What are your thoughts, Ralph? And do you think that it is realistic to hope for a repeat appearance in the Big 12 championship game?
I think that, I think you probably go into this season saying that, I'll put it this way. This is the first schedule I have ever seen ever as an Arizona State fan, alumni, even when I covered the team. This is the first time I've ever looked at the schedule and I haven't said, oh, that's a loss. I've never had that before.
Mm-hmm.
In the Pac-12, there would usually be like a game at Eugene or like a David Shaw run Stanford, to have to deal with. You point to a game and be like, well, oh, USC, of course. We're not winning that game because Arizona State on the road in California was just nightmarishly awful forever. And so this is the very first time I've looked at it and been like, I can make a case for every single one of these. Namely the non-conference games that they won. The one I'm probably the most scared of at this point is Texas Tech, because they hired Texas State's offensive coordinator. Texas State gave Arizona State hell last year on like a Thursday night. So, that's the one I would say that I'm probably the most afraid of, but that one's at home.
Yeah, you do have to go to Ames for the Big 12 championship rematch.
That was my other one. That was my other one was
Jack Trice. If that game's at night, it is
in November
no
too.
bueno.
In November.
Yeah, and so that was probably the other one that I was looking at to say like, okay, let's say that I have to give them one loss. I have to. Then I'm probably going to look at a road game more than a home game, and I'm going to look at Iowa State for a revenge game on November 1st.
Yeah, man, I'm so freaking annoyed as a TCU fan. We have you and SMU in back-to-back weeks. I don't know how we have two playoff teams in back-to-back weeks in September. Very annoyed by that. But yeah, I think the schedule, I think it works out pretty good. I mean, that November could be challenging, but I mean, I don't know. Brownie, what do you think as an impartial third party?
Honestly, like looking at Arizona State's schedule, if we're just going based off of the outcome of last season, I think honestly the only potential troubling game that they do have is maybe that slate where it's home against Houston, at Iowa State, and then straight into home at West Virginia. I mean, it's not that terrible
They do get a bye,
of travel time. They do get a bye in there.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those where it's like, okay, how are you going to handle a double home with Texas Tech splashing all of that money? And then are you going to potentially look past the struggling Houston Cougars and focus on Iowa State to where that might be the trap game?
You have to think Houston's going to sneak up on some folks next
year.
Of
course. If they have a quarterback, they're going to be extremely dangerous.
Yeah.
But I look at this schedule and my immediate thought is there are no wins. You can't guarantee a win. I used to believe that you could pencil in the SEC for one win every November against the cupcakes that they schedule. But then New Mexico State did what they did, and now nobody's safe. So, I look at this schedule. There are no wins. Wins are earned, but I cannot tell you a guaranteed loss, and that's the first time in my life that I've looked at a schedule and not said, oh, okay, there's one we're definitely giving back. Even last year, I was convinced at Manhattan, not happening. And
that's a tough place to play too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you do avoid them this year.
And no Cincinnati.
You avoid BYU. You don't have to play BYU.
No BYU, no Cincinnati. Yeah. Cincinnati beat us last year. And the Texas Tech thing happens at home, and that's helpful.
Are we your furthest travel outside of like Mississippi State? I think we're your furthest travel, unless
it's not very bad schedule.
Because you guys are pretty close to Waco. Because isn't Waco central, north central, west Texas, right?
Waco is an hour south of Fort Worth, so yeah, like central Texas.
Distance wise, the difference between Arizona State and Utah is the exact same as Arizona State and Texas Tech. So having to go to Waco isn't going to be any different than ASU going to the Bay Area or Seattle, or it's not going to be anything that is out of the ordinary for Pac-12 version of Arizona State. Not that any of these players were part of that.
I was just like looking through this and I was like, oh man, like it could potentially be an East Coast trap game or something, where it's an early morning kickoff, 11 a.m. But you guys don't have any East Coast time slots. Except
just
for
Central.
is Mississippi? Are they Central too?
I'm pretty
Yeah.
positive they're Central. I think.
Well, I don't think they go to Orlando until next year. They don't go to Morgantown until 2027. So it's pretty limited.
That's pretty.
travel.
I was gonna say it's pretty favorable, in especially like this. I mean, I would personally love this schedule.
Mm-hmm.
And also, like what's interesting, not a lot of people know this. Arizona State has told the Big 12 that they like opening on the road. So
bold strategy, Cotton.
You will probably always see Arizona State's first conference game be away from Tempe. And that's for the good of everyone.
Yeah. Well, if you had to make
I don't know if you guys have experienced what's happening on this planet right now, but we're not that far away from a 130-degree kickoff in Tempe.
Yeah, I'd rather not want to do that either.
Yeah, I mean, so you can look up what it was, Clint, on September 26th of last year to get an idea of what TCU is going to be facing on Friday, September 26th.
I mean, it gets pretty freaking hot in Fort Worth, too, and we got humidity over here. September 26th, 2024. Let's see. Weather. Let's see. 104 during the day or 108. Hold up. Yeah.
No
104.
thanks.
Yeah. But that's a dry heat, you know. I'm not worried about that.
Yeah, but your football players have about 30 pounds of pads on.
Yeah.
And
Hey, if Iowa State got shelled out of a game because Baylor refused to let us put up tents, just please put up your tents.
Well, Ralph, last thing I've got for you, if you had to make a call right now as to who we're going to see in Arlington for that Big 12 championship next year, who are you expecting to see? What two teams?
I'm bullish on Texas Tech.
Okay.
I think they made a fantastic addition at offensive coordinator. I remain unconvinced they'll play defense, and you have to have a good defense to get it done. So, that being said, I'm gonna say run it back.
Okay, Arizona State and Tech.
I'm gonna say Arizona State, Iowa State.
Oh, okay.
But I do
bait and switch.
But I do believe Texas Tech will be knocking. I think they were picked ninth in the preseason poll last year, and I think finished 5th or 6th. I think they'll up that to potentially 3rd this year. But I just don't think never playing defense is your best strategy, and it's like their forever identity. So
yeah. I don't know. I kind of think I think of Texas Tech. I mean, there's a reason we call them Sand Aggies over here, right? You know, and let them spend all this money and go 8-4. You know, that's exactly what A&M does, right? That's let's keep them doing that same thing. That's fine by me.
Are you thinking that they're going to get 8 wins this season?
Well, that'd be even better if they didn't get 8 wins. Well, let's close this sucker down. Ralph Brownie, thanks so much for joining the show as always. Tell the folks at home where they can find you.
I'm on the internet.
Oh.
At Ralph Amsden. I do a show. So check this out, though. I do a show with George Reister, and we have an interview dropping with Dead Fish this week. It's awesome. Next week we got Kenny Dillingham for the Arizona State fan, and in 2 weeks we got Dabo Swinney. I got to go down to Clemson, hang out with Dabo. I played basketball with him. I airballed about 5 threes that he was feeding. He said, "We're staying until you hit the rim," and then he walked away, hit a half-court shot, and then didn't talk to me like for the rest of the day. I embarrassed myself in front of Dabo at the Clemson Palace, one of the coolest places I've ever been. But I would say check out Unafraid Show. George Reister's got some awesome interviews that I'm helping him out with over there that we're dropping every Wednesday, and we also do college football apostles over there as well.
Awesome. Brownie, tell the folks where they find you.
As usual, at Hoosier Burner on Twitter /X, whatever you want to call it, you generationals. You can also find me on Blue Sky, Brownie Wide Right Natty Light. Feel free to hit up our website, widerightnattylight.com. And of course, check out our main Twitter page at Wide Right Natty Lights and join our Discord. We also have a March Madness bracket, and I absolutely love that Darren DeVries is going to Indiana and McCollum from Drake is going to sign with West Virginia, and the University of Iowa men's basketball program is going to suck.
Love that. Love that journey for them. Subscribe to the show at Big 12 VOCFB. Download us wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe to or follow the Voice of College Football on Twitter and Instagram, and follow me at Clint_Foster55 on Twitter and at Clint Foster Comedy on YouTube. Next week is BYU night. So bring your holy underwear and your Book of Mormon, because we're gonna get in the thick of it, okay, and talk about these Cougs and if maybe they can end up in Arlington with the Sun Devils at the end of the season. But until then, I love you. I hope your team wins, and go Big 12. See you around, folks.